Hello, everybody. Listen to my lecture. Why I majored in philosophy. A motivation for doing a doctorate in philosophy is my childhood experience. In other words, I lost my father when I was 6 and lived under my widowed mother. So I felt very lonely. My mother ran a bar. It was hard for me to find quiet time because there was always a lot of customers in the bar, and my house was connected to the bar. My mother was always tired and busy, so she didn't have time to give me any expression of motherly affection. Instead, she bought me anything I needed. There being no husband, there being no husband, her life was so hard that it was almost impossible for her to take care of her two sons in a lovely manner. So my younger brother and I were raised by a grandmother and several maids who usually worked in the bar. Especially it was during holidays that I had a hard time. First of all, during Chuseok, a Korean traditional festival, there were endless customers at the bar. And my uncle, who was working with my mother, did not close the store. As a result, our brothers even more lonely during the holidays. During summer vacation, my mother used to send me back to my hometown, Gyeongju City. And on Lunar New Year's Day, I went to the express bus terminal to visit my mother's family house. Other kids at the bus terminal took their parents' hands and went to their relative house. I too went to my mother's family house, but all alone by myself as a young kid. My mother didn't like to visit her hometown because she didn't have a husband. Instead, I always visited my parents' house during vacation or holidays. The reason was that I was the first son of the An family. I was, so to speak, the deputy of my dead father. At that time, I couldn't express my sorrow in words. Then I happened to learn the word happiness in elementary school. Is there real happiness? I had such a question. One day, I happened to go to a friend's house, and there I found happiness. When I saw the family of my friend get together and eat, drink, and laugh, I said, happiness is not only in books, but also in reality. Why are there both happiness and unhappiness in the world? I thought everyone was unhappy as I was, but it wasn't so. Some were happy, others were unhappy. There was a fundamental difference in the world. I couldn't understand why. The problem led me to the deeper meditation of life, literature, philosophy, and religion. I was aware of the important concept of the identity and the difference in philosophy in advance. In other words, the idea of language and object relationships sprouted up at this time. I think this consciousness and the concern of life led me to the long journey of pursuing lifelong study, including philosophy. There is a fact indicator that corresponds to a word symbol. In this process, my future hope has changed. My dream was originally to become a scientist. So when I was in elementary school, I always put together things and experimented a lot at home after school. For example, there was usually a radio kit that was to solder and to assemble. I also bought and read a special magazine called Electroscience at the time. I made a radio with 4 transistors, beginning from all radio. When I came back from school, I ran straight into soldering radio kit. My grandmother said, "Hey, the soup is getting cold. Eat before you do it." I remember that. My mother, Park Yang-chun, was rich in wealth at that time, so she bought me everything I wanted to do. Next, I did the various chemical experiments, such as burning charcoal gas produced by heating charcoal in the test tube with alcohol. My father, An Suk-chu, was discharged as an engineering captain as a Korean War veteran. Perhaps because I inherited my father's blood, I have a hobby in making and repairing things. My father hid a small dynamite-like explosive device in the wall closet. After his death, I found it, tried pulling up one of its rings, and suddenly got scared of the exploding. So I took it out of my house and threw a box of explosives into the sea near 자갈치 market in Busan. But my scientific and engineering hobby gradually changed to literature. The reason was unhappiness and loneliness. I was originally outgoing and sociable, but because of the solitude, I became gradually introvert. Instead of gadget hobby and sports, reading literature mattered in my daily life. My mother was also very good at learning, and she was a talented student in Gyeongju City during Japanese colonial period. My mother read a lot when she was taking a break from her business. When I was in middle school, my mother and I used to read Hwang Sun-won's complete works together. Hwang Sun-won is a representative novelist in Korea. My hobbies gradually changed to literature, psychology, religion, and philosophy. So I planned to major in English literature when I was in high school, but after failing to enter the humanity development of Seoul National University, which is the most famous university in Korea, I went to the Korean Foreign Language University and majored in English. There was no English literature department in Korean Foreign Language University like other universities, but there was an English department instead. The late Professor Lee Young-geul taught English poetry when I was in college. I used to get 8 grades for English poetry and English novels. When I was in college, I met with many friends. In my boarding house, friends who drank with me used to come and sleep by me. However, my close friends left me one by one because of their life businesses. Therefore, I also went to the army service not long after I entered the school. After returning to the college, I thought about English literature again. I didn't hate English literature, but I saw there was no system of English literature. In other words, Shakespeare alone is like a huge island, and English literature, such as T.S. Eliot, is like a galaxy of great writers. However, it is impossible to find the systematic and holistic nature of learning. I worked to integrity or systematic totality of my studies. That's why I turned to philosophy. Philosophy seemed to have the totality of learning system and organic structure. Though I majored in English literature in foreign university, I studied Western philosophy as a minor. Back then, the teachers of philosophy were Professor Son Bong-ho, Professor Kang Seung-hui, Professor Jang Wook, and Professor Lee Gi-sang. They were all retired as I was older. Lee Gi-sang, an honorary professor of Heidegger philosophy, is now my Facebook friend. When I went abroad to study Hegel's philosophy in Germany, I had Professor Klaus Diesing in the University of Cologne and Professor Manfred Baum in the University of Wuppertal, who helped me with my last degree, Doctor of Philosophy. Both of them are masters of Hegel's philosophy and the German idealism philosophy. This man is Professor Klaus Diesing from Cologne University. This man is Professor Dr. Manfred Baum of Wuppertal University in Germany. While studying philosophy, I came to know God and Jesus Christ. After I finished graduate school at the Seoul National University, I gave a lecture on philosophy introduction at a theological seminary, and I turned to Christianity because of the prayers and the pleas of seminary students who were learning philosophy from me at the time. And my philosophical talent has been burning ever since, although now I learned teaching institute for a living and earn money mainly through English education. Philosophy is my eternal passion. My quest for happiness was solved in religion, that is, in the providence of the Almighty God. But in faith, my philosophical ability has been enriched and deepened. Generally, men think that philosophy is the opposition of faith or religion, but in my case, faith in God gives the true awareness of the knowledge, and especially the philosophical knowledge. Today, thank you very much for listening to my lecture. See you again.